this should be a really good game. And although Ohio State should win the game, Indiana can't beat them. There is zero, and I mean zero pressure on Indiana to win this game. All the pressure in the world is on Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith is what I label as an F-R-E-A-K, freak. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you having a great week. Hope all of you having a great Thursday. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. Man, oh man, it is time for the little bro. Ohio State versus Indiana. The Fighting Kurt Cinetti's preview. Whew, this is going to be a really, and I mean really interesting game. As we all know, there's a big controversy surrounding this Indiana football team, and that controversy is no other than they ain't played nobody. Some people think Indiana's overrated. Some people think they're only 10-0 because they ain't played nobody. On the flip side, the argument for Indiana, if you are a fan of that team or you're a fan of the Big Ten and you're rooting for them, it's, well, they've won all their games. They've done all they could do, and that's a fair argument. Here's the greatest part about all of this. All those conversations and all the controversy is going to be shut up at 11 a.m. on Saturday. We're going to find out just how good Indiana is. Now, let me tell you how I feel about them before we even get into this. For those of you who don't know, I come out with my own rankings on Sunday, and I have teams like Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss ranked ahead of Indiana. I don't know why, but some people misconstrue that as, oh, well, Matt thinks Indiana sucks, he's not giving them respect, and yada, 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 so on, so on. When no, that's not the case. I've actually stated multiple times. I remember saying it 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, and Indiana was only 4-0 and 5-0, that I think they're a good team, and it's not some fluke. If you actually watch Indiana play, this is a sound football team, and they're really good. I'm going to say it one more time. This isn't some Cinderella March Madness run. Indiana is a good football team. But, and I have a big but, I don't think they're better than Alabama, Georgia, or Ole Miss. And guess what? Neither do you. Now, do they deserve to be ranked ahead of them? Maybe that's really a different conversation. I'm just saying who's better, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, or Indiana? I'd pick all the SEC teams. But guess what? You know who I think's better than Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss? Lil Bro State, which is Ohio State. So this is why I'm really looking forward to this game, because it's really going to tell us or tell me if I was right about Indiana or if I was wrong. If Indiana can compete with Ohio State, I'm not even talking about win the game. If they can compete with them, that'll show me, depending on how the game goes, that they're just as good as Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss and some other teams out there. But if Indiana gets blown out in this game by 20-plus points, then we'll know, okay, yeah, I was right. They weren't better than some other teams that have ranked ahead of them. I think the consensus all across the country, especially from your casual fans, is, oh yeah, Ohio State's going to show them what a real team looks like, and Indiana has no shot. But just like the legend Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. If I were you, which I'm not, I am me, which, duh, obviously. I sounded stupid there, but let's just roll with it. I would be very hesitant to just write off this Indiana team and write off this game as, oh yeah, Ohio State's going to win easily. You don't start out 10-0, go on a 10-game win streak, win your first 10 games, whatever you want to call it, by being a bad football team. You don't start out 10-0 by being an average football team. You can't fluke your way to a 10-0 season. And for the most part, and people don't even talk about this enough, Indiana has really just massacred all the teams they've played. That's why I tell you, you got to watch these games, man. It'd be a different conversation if Indiana was skimming by these teams like Maryland, beat them by 3, or if they beat Northwestern by 7, beat who else? Nebraska by 7. No, they're dominating. Their closest game this entire season was their most recent one against Michigan, and they won by 5 points. Outside of that, their next closest game was 14 points. So you can sit up here all you want and say, yeah, well, Indiana ain't played anybody. Granted, that's true. I've said that same argument. But they're not just winning these games, they're dominating. This is, and I repeat, and I will continue to repeat it, a good football team, and I want people to understand that. Do not be shocked if Indiana goes out here and they play Ohio State a good ball game. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. You're waiting on me to say it to the end of the video. I'm just going to say it right now. Ohio State should win this game. They're the favorites. Ohio State is the most talented team in the nation. They spent, how much was it, $21 million this offseason? At every position group, Ohio State is better than Indiana. Every position group. Ohio State also, overall, from top to bottom, not just the head coach, but top to bottom, has the better coaching staff. Ohio State also has the better running backs, better wide receivers, better everything. I could go on and on and on. Ohio State should win. However, I'm going to bring this up, Notre Dame should have beat Northern Illinois. Alabama should have beat Vanderbilt. There's a reason we play the games. And since Indiana, I normally in these videos talk about where a certain team has the edge. Since they don't have the edge anywhere, let's talk about how Indiana can pull off this upset. Because I'm going to be just frank and honest with y'all. If Ohio State plays their A game, there's no way they lose. Number one, Indiana's going to need Ohio State's help. And yeah, you heard me correctly. Not their own help, but Ohio State's help. Indiana needs Ohio State to beat themselves. They need Will Howard to do what he did against Penn State. Throw a pick six, something like that, a scoop and score. They need a defensive touchdown. They're going to need Ohio State to potentially miss one or maybe even two field goals, maybe block one. They're going to need something like that because I am telling you right now, if Ohio State plays the way I know they can play, Indiana doesn't stand a chance. One thing I found to be rather interesting when I was doing research preparing for this preview, prediction video, whatever you want to call it, is that Indiana has a really solid run defense. And I feel like me saying they have a quote-unquote solid run defense is me not giving them enough credit. And I thought about sitting up here and showing you some of Indiana's numbers this season on defense and offense, but I don't even think it can apply to this game because you ain't played nobody to the equivalent of Ohio State. You can throw the defensive numbers, offensive numbers out the window. They don't apply to this game because this is a different beast. Long story short, all down the year, Indiana, relatively good defense, relatively good offense, and I think that is more than fair to say. Here's a fun fact for you. Indiana's average margin of defeat this year is 30 points. I tell you this much though, they ain't beating Ohio State by 30. Not gonna happen, not in a million years. But here's where I think Indiana can see some success in this game. Curtis Rourke. I don't see him running all over Ohio State. Indiana has a decent running game, nothing special. I think Rourke has the ability to manage this game well. If you watch him this entire year, that's what he is. It's not a knock on his game. He is a perfect and ideal game manager. Not going to make many mistakes on the season so far. Only 4 interceptions. Not going to put the ball in harm's way. And probably about 4 or 5 times per game, he's going to have a deep shot. If he hits it, great. If he doesn't, live to play another down. And I know what some of you are sitting here saying. It's a great question. Well, Matt, you think if Rourke just manages the game, that's going to be good enough to upset Ohio State? And yes, I do. Let me explain. A lot of times when you see these teams like Indiana, who's a big underdog against Ohio State, the quarterback tries to turn into Superman Cam, tries to do too much, and that's why they lose the game. When in reality, if you just take care of the ball, hit your check downs, hit your running back in the flat, hit your 10-yard curl routes, you'll be in prime position to win. Football, basketball, whatever sport you want to name, it's not about doing the extraordinarily things. It's about doing the ordinarily things extraordinarily. The best teams in the nation, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, whatever sport out there, soccer, water polo, lacrosse, swimming, they do the simple things efficiently and well. And to me, that's what I think Rourke's superpower is in this game. If Indiana wants to win, he has to play great and efficient, simple football. Do not, and I can't emphasize this enough, do not do too much. A great example is Sean Clifford, that quarterback for Penn State that played for us like 11 or 12 years. I lost count. Penn State can never beat Ohio State because he would lose the game for him every single year. I think one year he had like 2 pick sixes. Just don't lose the game. And if it's close in the fourth quarter, yeah, that's when you start taking some risk. Indiana, more importantly Rourke, doesn't want to lose this game before it even gets going. Because the longer Indiana stays in this game, just keeps it within 7 or 10 points, the more that Indiana football team will start to believe they can win. I'm not saying they don't believe right now they can win, but they know they're not the favorites. And once you look up at that scoreboard, it's late in the third quarter, and you're only down 3, only down 7, heck, maybe you're up 3. That's when it starts to sit in when you're like, holy crap, we can pull off this upset, guys. And also, too, this is the other side of it. The longer Indiana stays in this game, the more Ohio State starts to get nervous. Because let's get one thing clear. There is zero, and I mean zero pressure on Indiana to win this game. All the pressure in the world is on Ohio State. And I'm not going to say as a former athlete myself, and many of you watching this video, you hate to play in games like this, but it's such a weird feeling. It's not technically a lose-lose, but if you go out there and dominate and win, nobody's going to applaud you, if that makes sense. Whereas if you go out there and lose, if you're Ohio State, everybody's going to point their finger and laugh at you. Ohio State has all the pressure in the world, and sometimes teams and players, they crumble under pressure. And we've seen it this year. Will Howard, he can make mistakes. With all that being said, here's where I'm concerned for Indiana. It is one area of this game, and despite what many people think, this is the most important part of any and every single football game. That area of the game I'm referring to, and it's one word, is the trenches. I don't know if Indiana's going to be able to hold up in the trenches. Fortunately, Ohio State's, I'd say, defensive line this year in front 7 has been disappointing this year. So that is kind of good news for Indiana, but still, That Ohio State front seven ain't nothing to play around with. And when I say they were or have been disappointing, that doesn't mean they're bad. They're still good, but I thought they were going to be great. Look, if Indiana can't block these guys, whether it be in the running game or the passing game, you don't even have a chance to win. On the flip side of ball defense, if you can't even get a little bit of pressure on Will Howard, it's going to be a long day. I'm telling you right now, if you give Will Howard more than 4 seconds to throw, there's a guy that goes by the name of Jeremiah Smith, and he will get open. Jeremiah Smith he's out of this world. I hear a lot of people say him and Ryan Williams are 1A, 1B. Nah, the past couple weeks, I think it was close, after the Georgia game, but no. Jeremiah Smith is better, in my humble opinion, than Ryan Williams. Jeremiah Smith is what I label as a F-R-E-A-K, freak. He's not human. How old is he? 18 years old? Bro, he looks like prime Julio Jones right now. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm not going to pander to you guys. I'm not picking Indiana to win this game, and you shouldn't either. It's not smart. It's not to say that they can't win, but when you look what Ohio State has heading into this game and you look what Indiana has, you can't pick against Ohio State. It's the same thing with Alabama Vandy. Even if they played again tomorrow in a rematch, some people would entertain the idea of picking Vandy, but I wouldn't. Because when you look at all the talent Bama has, you got to go with Bama. It comes down to this for me. At the end of the day, you can be the greatest coach in the world, but if you don't have dudes, you ain't winning nothing. And you want to know who has dudes? Ryan Day. The only, and I mean the only advantage Indiana might have in this game is Curt Cinetti. I'm not ready to sit up here and say Curt Cinetti's better than Ryan Day, but he's on the fast track. And y'all know this. Nobody's going to throw Ryan Day under the bus quicker than me, myself, and I. I got Ohio State winning this one. I don't even think for a split second it's going to be a blowout. This should be a really good game. And although Ohio State should win the game, let me make this clear. Indiana can't beat them. Give me the Buckeyes in this one. I'm rolling with the little bro. Ohio State 31 to Indiana's 17. 31-17, mark it in the Bucks. That's my final score, and I've been on a heater the past couple of weeks if some of you have been paying attention. I predicted the Ole Miss Georgia upset, and I also predicted the Georgia versus Tennessee game dang near correctly. I think I was like 3 points off in total. One more time, give me the Buckeyes 31-17. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But